But just to make sure we are online live and now we're recording. All right. Welcome to the very first episode of Grindhouse Chic. I'm here with my co-hosts Robert and Matt. How are you guys?
I am great, Oliver. How are you?
I'm also very good. Very excited. A little bit nervous. It's our first live stream, but we have a couple of very interesting topics to talk about today. Just a little bit about what we're doing and why we're doing it. Grindhouse Chic is basically a Vinegar Syndrome fan cast from the three of us who are fans of the label and everything they put out. And basically, it's a journey through the catalog of Vinegar Syndrome, and we discuss the release one by one, or maybe box set by box set, depending on the theme we are choosing. Yeah, that's about it. And we hope you enjoy the format.
Yeah.
All right, yeah.
So why don't we talk a little bit of ourselves? Oliver, how did you start? How did you discover Vinegar Syndrome, and what was the first movie that prompted you to start buying?
So I heard about the first time, I think it was in 2019, but the major impact was the release of Red. That was all over the media, even in Germany, where I'm from, and I never heard about the movie. And then I got curious about the label, followed them for a while, and then dug into YouTube experts, and they were all talking about Vinegar Syndrome. And then I think early 2020, I ordered my first pack of Vinegar Syndrome titles, which were Tammy and the T-Rex, The Caller, and the third one was Blood Games.
And out of the three, which one of those was your favorite?
Timmy and the T-Rex. By far. It's an incredible, funny movie. I like it. I love it.
Okay, Matt, what about you? How did you discover Vinegar Syndrome, and what was the movie that prompted you to buy something from them?
Kind of the same thing. It was just one movie that kind of drew me to it, and mine was the Beastmaster 4K. I had seen it pop up, and I saw the packaging, all of that with it. And I used to be really big into collecting physical media, and it had just kind of gotten stale. I kind of just went specifically to digital media, and then I saw that come out. I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. I'm gonna jump on that. I'm gonna get involved in that. And then just started seeing different releases they were putting out. Like Oliver said, I started to follow some YouTube channels. Like the main one was Michael Keane. Seeing him talk about the movies and just really being into him, being into the releases. I did the halfway subscription, and ever since then, it's kind of just been buying all of them up. First one was that Beastmaster though.
Cool. I'm gonna guess that was your favorite.
Yeah. I've always liked that movie, and it's even just watching it again. It was kind of. I feel like I don't really remember it the same way that I did back then, but it was still pretty good.
That's cool. The first movie that kind of drew me into them was a double feature with Oriental Hawaii and Mylin versus Serena, because when I was a kid, Oriental Hawaii was the first porno I had ever seen, and I bought it for nostalgia. And it's sad that the only thing that I could think of after watching it was that movie wasn't really filmed in Hawaii. When I was a kid, it made so much sense that they actually sent everybody out there because it was a movie, and you seemed like movies were a big production. And then in porn, I realized it was just somebody's house, probably in California, with stock footage of Hawaii.
Right.
But the movie that really got me into them was they had an Indiegogo promotion for exploitation TV, and they were going to release a Blu-ray that had never been released, I don't think, in DVD or Blu-ray at that point. And someone online suggested it was this movie called Santa Gold, which if you were watching WWF programming at any time in the 90s, you would see this commercial for this insane looking wrestling zombie film. I think it was a zombie film. And I bet my money on the thing for the Blu-ray, a DVD, and a year free of exploitation TV, and I got the Executioner Part 2, and I was angry, but I watched it. I just fell in love, and then just started buying everything from the company from that point.
Nice.
Yep.
Long time follower, so
We've all fallen into the trap.
Yeah, but it was weird back then. It wasn't the slip covers. I mean, they were not around. It was just nothing was collectible, and then all of a sudden, everything is collectible from them.
Right. Yeah.
It's a nice marketing gimmick they have.
And it seems it's a gimmick that all the boutiques are now following.
Yeah, except for Criterion.
Criterion is not a boutique.
You think so?
They're somehow partnered with Warner Brothers, because their movies are shown all on a good chunk of their movies are on HBO Max right now. And you can still find their titles in stores.
Yeah, that's true.
But it's the same thing with Arrow.
Arrow to a lesser extent, yes.
Yeah.
But the only time I've ever seen Vinegar Syndrome in stores was at a Barnes & Noble in Troy, Michigan. And it was always weird because they would have a copy of Mary Mary on the shelf for the longest time.
I have never seen them there. Maybe that was a while ago.
It's only the one in Troy, Michigan. They had like a buyer there who would just order like the coolest titles, and I'm glad I don't live by Barnes & Noble of that quality anymore because I went broke. Just buying everything.
But I envy you guys so that you have a Barnes & Noble sale and a Vinegar Syndrome archive. That's something I would really love to have in Germany, something like that.
It's funny, since I moved to DC, I'm 4.5 hours away from the archive, and I thought about driving there this Saturday after Black Friday to pick my stuff up. And then I realized how stupid it would be to drive a 10-hour trip just to get movies.
No. I wouldn't.
But if any of you are from the DC and want to drive, I'll be more than happy to drive up there with you and pay half the gas.
I mean, I've thought about driving there, and it's a 9.5 each way for me, so don't feel too bad.
That's too long. That's too long. Speaking of purchases, let's talk about Black Friday.
Yes. Too much money spent.
All right.
How much did you spend? Let's start there.
How much did I spend?
Yeah.
I ordered a subscription from them, so $950 minus the discount, so I think $875, $850 for that. Then I bought the VSA titles, that and the AGFA title and the Linda Blair movie, and a few related slipcovers, and then just the new titles from Severin. That was really it.
It's enough, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, I think about, like, though I don't really consider the money for the subscription for this year. I consider it for next year. So
yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
it's true.
Yeah.
Matt,
yeah, I did not do the subscription this time. It was too big of a chunk to shell out all at once for me. But looking at my orders here, I think I spent about $400. I ended up ordering all of the partner label stuff. Didn't think I was going to, but just figured out what the heck. I got a poster that I forgot about, and it showed up separate. The New York Ninja one that was signed. Completely forgot I ordered that. Got the ones with the new slips. Got VSAs, all of that stuff that came with it. I was one of the ones who shelled out $15 for an empty box to put movies in.
Oh, and which
I
is
had
what,
The Rudy Ray Moore box.
yeah, yeah.
see, all right. See, I think that one deserved a box set. I mean, when they released them, it should have been
Right.
a box set for that.
Right.
But
It looks really nice.
I had no problem buying an empty box to put those 4 movies
Yeah,
in.
it's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had it in my cart as well, but I put it out because I wanted to wait until I have all movies.
The only complaint I have, I'll say, is that it only has one spine number on it from the first movie in the set. So if you're obsessed and want to have all the numbers there lined up on your shelf, then you're gonna have some missing from the other movies.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad I do not organize my collection.
Yeah.
It's a costly mistake. Yeah. But
what was your Black Friday damage?
I ordered the international subscription. That was a huge chunk, like 960, including shipping. And then I had around 350 worth of movies. I didn't go for the new ones, the new releases. We talk about them maybe a little bit later. But I'm very looking forward to Censor or Steel and Lace, for example. But my main focus for Black Friday this year was to get movies that are older releases and start from the earlier days of Vinegar Syndrome, and get the new titles next year.
That's interesting. Why start from back then than the current titles?
One reason would be, of course, because the old titles are on sale and the new ones aren't. But I started researching, I think, in summer for the titles I wanted to have on Black Friday in my cart. And I was looking for movies that are really funny or bonkers, like Tammy and the T-Rex, for example. That's my my state of reference right now for Vinegar Syndrome titles. And I don't know too much about the new ones. And I had already made my list up for Black Friday regarding the titles I wanted to have. So basically my purchases were set in stone by the time Black Friday hit.
Gotcha. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Now I want to point out something that, Oliver, you are a rarity in Vinegar Syndrome collectors by the fact that you don't care about the slipcover or if they're sealed, which to a lot of people would be complete and utter heresy. Please tell us about that.
No problem. So I think slipcovers, to me, they look very good. They are basically, from my point of view, they are the best on the market when it comes to slipcovers. Vinegar Syndrome are better than Arrow, better than all the other labels who do slipcovers. The design is most of the time flawless, but in the end, for me, they go into the shelf and I only see the spine, and to take out the movie out of the slipcover to watch it is one task I have to do more to watch the movie, and I don't know. And that's one thing. And the other thing is, once you start collecting those things, you want to have most of them, if not all of them, and then you get into trouble financially. I think I don't pay 30, 50 or 60 bucks for a slipcover piece of cardboard. Not gonna happen.
I appreciate it. Like, I will not go back in time. Like, if I miss a release, I don't care about the slipcover or the booklet. The movie is the only thing that matters to me.
Mm-hmm.
But when I have them, I'm not getting rid of them because they're part of the purchase.
Yeah, yeah. So I can be your source for slipcovers for next year for in the audience. If somebody is missing a slipcover, I might be selling them next year.
But do you think it's weird? Like, all right, so when they started doing slipcovers, they were in the thousands and 1500s. Now they're 8,000, 10,000. There's too many out there. I think if you're going to be a collector
Yeah, that's
for
true.
slipcovers, the partner labels are the way to go because their numbers are just way down.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
And
I
is it
don't know.
all of them that are getting that big jump in numbers, or is that just these a couple of them? I know the VSAs are still somewhat low.
They're still around 5,000.
5. Yeah,
Yeah,
that is a lot more.
There's a lot.
The, the early ones are the more sought after because there's not that many of them.
Right.
I would really like to know how big the customer base of Vinegar Syndrome is. How many customers they have, active customers, not some skeletons in their database, but really active customers who buy regularly from Vinegar Syndrome. I would like to know that. I think even 5,000 slipcovers is a lot for Vinegar Syndrome, and it might be a number that won't go out of print soon.
Right.
I think from a marketing standpoint, they are the boutique labels. They are the hot one right now. They're the ones that people talk about. They have really cool movies that they release. But I think with the slipcovers, guys, I'm sorry, I totally lost my train of thought. I'm sorry, I'm looking at my notes and I was thinking about those. And I totally lost my train of thought, so I apologize.
It's fine.
Normally, I would own up to have smoked way too much weed before, but I have not smoked since yesterday. So
maybe that's the reason.
Yeah, that's the problem right there.
That's a problem.
So,
but I think people are not talking about Arrow so much because Arrow is maybe if there were cults sometime in the past, they are not anymore. And Vinegar Syndrome has more titles even coming up next year that are so unknown to a lot of people that they are more interesting than Arrow titles. Arrow titles are very not mainstream all the time, but I think Arrow titles are better known.
I don't know about that. I think Arrow does a really good job of releasing mainstream movies like I can't believe Dune, like the original Dune, or and
But
pretty much I think they have what they're
Dune is the
Legend.
perfect example because I think they are cashing in on the new movie.
Oh yeah, and they should. It'll keep the.
It's fine. It's fine.
It keeps the label alive, but
Yeah.
but Arrow Video has been able to position themselves as more of a mainstream company who still release interesting films. Like one of my favorite releases from last year, the El Duce tapes came out from Arrow, and pretty much a film shot on VHS about the lead singer of the Mentors. And the film was amazing. I think more or less that should have been a film from Dark Forces or Vinegar Syndrome or even Severin, but Arrow released it, and I thought it was completely and utterly wonderful. And then Arrow also releases, besides stuff like True Romance, stuff like, a ton of Italian Western. So they still have their feet in the exploitation market, but they also realize that we can get people to buy our products who might end up buying our other stuff too. It's the gateway drug, like Rad was in Tammy and the T-Rex for Vinegar Syndrome.
Yeah, and I don't think anyone, at least in my opinion, is putting out better box sets than them either. I know I can see on Oliver's shelf back there those like imprint.
A couple,
yeah, I don't have much experience with those, but I know jumping into Arrow box sets, it's like, wow, this ton in here, ton of good stuff that I've never heard of. Great way to discover it, really. And you've got it all, the whole collection there to really experience it.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, but I think Arrow, they are bigger than Vinegar Syndrome in terms of even company size, but also revenue. And they were. When was it? When Xavi bought Arrow? Was it this last year? Last year, yeah. So
or
I
early
think
or early this year, one of the
yeah,
two.
yeah, sometime that around. And I think Xavi, or the HUD is the mother company, so to speak. I think they have an influence on the titles. They have maybe even they have more money to buy licenses and get the, like, True Romance is a big movie, and it deserved the Arrow treatment for sure.
I think though these were in the works a while because they've had a license with Universal for a while when they released Waterworld or The Postman?
Waterworld.
Waterworld, yeah.
Waterworld. They released Ronin. They even released stuff like The Apartment. So there's always been this bigger deal with them for the last couple of years where they've been releasing stuff that when they came out made me go, what? That doesn't seem like Arrow. I mean, for me, they were the company that released Dawn of the Dead, Day of the Dead, and a bunch of Argento stuff in the, what are they called? Those the window versions.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean they were basically Anchor Bay of England back in the day.
Yeah, that's true. I'm just looking at the time, guys. Do we want to talk about our main event movie?
Let's talk about Fade to Black.
Fade to Black, yes. Not the Metallica song, but the movie. You can also talk about the Metallica song, but I think the movie is a little bit more interesting.
Yeah.
I'm going to be honest. I am not a Metallica fan, so I have no idea what the song is.
Oh, that's interesting. I thought no, yeah, doesn't matter.
I mean,
Yeah,
that would be like saying to me, Oliver, since you're from Germany, you must be a huge fan of Einstützen den Neubauten.
No. No, that's okay. But let's not get into any. Let's talk about Fade to Black. All right. So where do we start? Do we start at the very beginning of the movie, or do you have any?
Let's read if you have the premise. Let's read the premise of the film.
Yes, I can. Let me just. It's good that we are live, so we can make mistakes or.
While Oliver's looking for that, I will read the synopsis.
Got it.
Okay.
No, I would read the synopsis from Letterboxd.
Okay.
Yeah. So Eric Binford watches a lot of movies. He's in the truest definition of a film geek. One day, his sanity takes a turn for the worse, and he begins acting out his favorite scenes from the movies. In doing so, he manages to involve his enemies, and scenes usually result in death. So he's basically a film geek who loses his sanity and tries out if people would die the same way he sees it in the movies.
So, I think Eric Binford is a tragic character, kind of in the same way as Travis Bickle from Taxi Driver, and I'm going to bring it up later. Also, Enid from Censor. There's a very similar trait to all these characters. Is while they exist in the real world, they are all in the midst of a mental collapse, and each one has an event that just sends them over the deep end. Mm-hmm. And Eric Binford, it's Fade to Black is a fascinating film because it chronicles his breakdown, and then when we hit that moment, it's like, holy fuck. This movie is going to get even darker. And it does. So
yeah.
I love this film. I love the way it plays out. I love all the characters. Even the one who is so unnecessary, which is Dr. Moriarty, who has no reason to be anywhere, who goes from a coke sniffing, harmonica playing psychiatrist to the de facto lead investigator on this case.
I'll talk about that later too, but that's kind of the aspect that I was most interested to see develop, and then it just didn't. But
yeah, but basically at one point, Eric Binford's name is on the board, and that's the connection we get from the psychiatrist to our main character. But what do you think about Fade to Black not being a horror movie but a character study?
I think it's the character study that makes Eric Binford a scary character. While it's not a horror movie and it is I would say a thriller, it details this kid who has been mentally, presumably physically, and it was alluded to sexually abused by his aunt/mom. And there's a line that Moriarty says towards the beginning of the end is Eric Binford never had a chance. And he said that when they discovered that his aunt was really his mom. And to me, that line sums up the entire film. And then the end, spoilers if you haven't seen it, talks about how I'm putting it through the lens of today, how the police act first and don't think, because it looked like that Eric Binford was putting his gun down and was about to surrender, and then he was shot.
Fuck the mind. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, and I'll just piggyback off that a little. I do think, it isn't a horror film, but I think a lot of times, if done right, these kind of character studies where you're really seeing that breakdown can be a lot more impactful, more scary than, a typical horror film. It's just got jump scares or whatever. But I think the way this movie was portrayed to us, I do think that it was, seeing that decline, seeing, even just, essentially just a day in the life of this guy, what goes happen to him, where he gets bullied, he's not taken seriously anywhere, all of it. I think that kind of alludes to a darker, kind of more scary thing than, if it was just a typical horror film.
Yeah. Do you think his decline could have been more, let's say even more darker? Because there's one point when his decline really starts happening. It's the moment when his mom/aunt goes into his room and basically wants him to get rid of all his movie stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was the cherry on top of the ice cream or the cake. The catalyst was Marilyn not showing up for the date. That was what began his mental decline, or lit the fuse for his mental decline.
Mm-hmm.
And his aunt mom just happened to be at the wrong place at the wrong time.
Yeah, she triggered him. But the date scene was interesting because he's waiting, I don't know, it looks like hours for Marilyn, and she doesn't show until, I don't know what time it was, but she takes her time because she forgot about it. But do you really think that his decline was set up by the not showing?
I think that sent him into a state.
Yeah.
So has something really made you angry and then somebody else just said something out of the blue that just made you explode?
No.
I forgot you're German and you hold in your repressions.
I'm a practicing Stoic, so no.
Practicing Stoic is the new name of our podcast.
But I know what you mean. Yeah.
No, I just felt that was it, because he did not think he was going on a date with, I can't remember her real name, the character's real name, but it is in his mind he was going out with Marilyn Monroe.
Her name is Marilyn O'Connor.
Okay. So he in his mind he's going out with Marilyn Monroe, as we saw in the scene at the hot dog stand where he said, "Do you know what happened in that building? Marilyn Monroe lives there." And the guy goes, "She's been dead for years." He's like, "No, she isn't." And then he kind of went crazy at the hot dog stand.
Yeah.
So,
sorry to cut you off. Go ahead.
No, go on.
Okay. No, I just thought that the whole date scene could have been more impactful for him and shown in a more impactful way to the audience. I thought, okay, he's upset, but I think the scene with his aunt was more, like you said, it was a tipping of the iceberg, but I think there was more emotional distress for him in that scene with his aunt in his bedroom, or his room, than in the dating scene.
So I'm going to say something first. I'm going to ask a question. I think in this movie, the only two characters that were really well thought out were Eric and his aunt. They were the only two. Everyone else felt really two-dimensional.
Yeah.
Which leads me to my other question. My question is, how many scenes in the movie really happened? Like,
I wrote a note down when I was watching the movie, asking if the last scene actually happened, because it seemed like, I don't know what kind of pills he was given to Marilyn. If she just, I don't know what that was. I was surprised that she didn't recognize him when she first walked in. He was the photographer dressed up as the prince.
well,
She did, but she played along, I think.
Okay.
No. Remember, they only met once.
Right.
And I'm guessing this movie took place over the span of months and not days.
Yeah, that could be.
But she says to him, "I know who you really are." In the dance scene, or in the what's it, the gallery, or wherever he shoots his photos, that they're in front of the, not in front of the mirror, but you know what I mean,
I agree. And some of the things in the photo where they are dancing in what looked like a ballroom probably wasn't really there. Just a curiosity, have either of you watched the show It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia?
A couple of episodes.
There's an episode where they went to their high school reunion and Mac does this gigantic dance number that looks really professional, but at the end they cut back to him just looking like an idiot on the dance floor. So it's reality perception. I think when they're in the photo studio, we are seeing everything from his mind's point of view. So at that point, he's beyond insane that the room probably doesn't match what the room really is.
Right. Yeah. That's interesting.
Yeah, because you could also ask, where did you get all this stuff and prepare everything so perfectly?
Yeah. I'm guessing Eric is not a person, as we saw how messy his room was. He is not somebody who pays attention to details, except for that Jimmy Cagney movie that he seems to like more than anything in and of itself. So I kind of wanted to talk about Mickey Rourke's character in the film.
Because what was his name?
Richie.
Okay.
Richie is obviously the coolest guy who works at the studio. But the fact that Richie, who has supposedly has seen Casablanca 50 times, doesn't know the full name of Humphrey Bogart's character.
Right.
But yet he knew that Hopalong Cassidy, which I guess for the age range that he would be, that would make perfect sense. And maybe I missed something, but did he know that was Eric? when he died, before he died.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did he?
Yeah, because he once Eric starts talking, he recognizes his voice.
That's
And
right.
then
That's right.
Yeah, he calls him by his name. But it took Eric to talking before he knew it was him. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So I do want to mention Linda Carriage, who played Marilyn, real quick. She has been in 3 Vinegar Syndrome films: Fade to Black, the awesome Surf 2, a movie that I did not like when it originally was played on HBO, but I am now in love with, Alien from LA. So she might be our first nomination into the Vinegar Syndrome Hall of Fame
Yes.
by this show. So what else about this movie has struck you as good, bad, or indifferent?
I'll touch on what I was
Yeah.
talking about before with the Moriarty character. I was initially really excited for them to bring that aspect in of bringing in like a social worker kind of character into this, because I felt like, you know, with this being a character study, it kind of needs that. It needs someone who's, you know, breaking down his thought process, what's going on in his mind, stuff like that. And then it just didn't. You know, he kind of just, you know, he started doing coke. He cleaned out that cell super fast somehow and made
But he
an
was on
office.
coke.
Yeah, yeah.
clean. Let's clean. All that.
But I felt like it was gonna touch on a lot of you know, topics of interest here in the States. I don't know how familiar it is out there in Germany with you, Oliver, but you know, this idea of like incarceration versus rehabilitation, kind of like social work versus law enforcement. I thought it was going to kind of like, you know, kind of be a back and forth of who's going to eventually save this kid or be the demise of this kid. And, you know, it really just didn't. It was kind of how Robert said, where it's just, you know, the police just started shooting.
Mhm.
So I was kind of disappointed in that aspect. I felt like the first act with, you know, the whole character development in itself was great. From then on, yeah, the kills were kind of cheesy. Makeup was really cool. But yeah, I was just really looking forward to that social work aspect of it, and it fell flat for me.
Yeah, there was.
Now,
Yeah.
I wonder in the original script if that subplot was more played out.
Yeah, possibly.
What I'm interested in putting the context of this movie under today's lens, because obviously we all met because we're film fans of one label and of movies in general. But do you think if Eric Binford was born 20 years later, he would have had friends and people to talk to?
Facebook groups.
Yeah.
Yeah. Live streams. Yeah, definitely. But
Yeah,
I think to the point Matt just talked about, I think even the police work was so like off script, you know, not off script, but off camera, because everything happens on even in the police station. You get one scene where they talk to each other, and then it's the next scene where nothing police related is happening, and then all of a sudden they're in front of his house. They know where he lives.
yeah, I was confused about that.
Yeah.
Well, he did go in there for questioning because they questioned him and they questioned Richie's best friend, who should have been the main suspect.
Yeah.
Because you know what? He was angry that Richie treats him like shit, and that Richie said we're going to go out and get laid, and then they went to a carnival.
It's very very convenient for them to have just 2 people coming in who they talk to, and at least one of them would be the main suspect. You know, it could be anybody who killed him, and it's a little far-fetched, I think.
Well, it was totally far-fetched, because how would Eric know that they're there?
Yeah, that's also true. Yeah.
It's not like they were friends, and it's not like you could use technology to find somebody. But I am not a fan of remakes, but I would like to see this movie remade today.
Yeah, I think the same thing. I think this one is ripe for revisiting and taking it up a level, jumping on those themes where it could be more of like like a Clarice character kind of, where it's really getting to the mind of Eric instead of just screaming there's still time for the last 10 minutes of the movie and not doing anything else really.
No, I think if I were to remake it, I would get rid of the psychiatrist character altogether. Because I'm a economy of scale. I think the female cop could be the hero of the film.
Yeah, I can see that too.
I also, one thing I love about it, and it is casting the guy who plays the police chief. I don't know if he has done any other cop stuff, but he looks like he has. It's like, let's hire the most cop-looking cop, and let's make this police department look cliche because of it. And for that reason, I thought that was kind of brilliant casting.
Yeah, he's a good cast. That's true. Yeah.
Yeah. So there were 5 deaths in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Eric only killed 3 people. Yeah. And
no, we have six deaths because his own death counts. But
yes. But that kill wasn't attributed to him. That kill was the police.
Yeah, that's right. But before you get going, if you look at the supplements, and Dennis Christopher talks about his character, he also talks about the ending that could have been the ending, and that was the idea of, after he fell from the TCL theater. The idea was that Marilyn goes by his dead body, and he lands also on the feet of Marilyn Monroe on the sidewalk. And the idea was that Marilyn O'Connor goes by his dead body and closes his eyes, because Eric was a film geek, and in films people often die with their eyes open, and Eric wanted to see everything, and so his death was with eyes open, and like I said, the idea was for Marilyn to close his eyes, and that was fade to black. So from there the screen would have faded to black, and the film has ended.
That would have been a much better ending.
Yes. I thought so. Yeah.
But then the only problem I have with that makes Marilyn a willing victim.
Yeah, I can see that. But still, I think that would have been the better ending.
I don't disagree with you. I did, with the movie Clerks, I always thought the better ending was Dante getting shot. Until I saw it play out. And I realized Dante getting shot
I was wrong.
was not the best ending. Though it would have stopped Kevin Smith from making a ton of sequels to Clerks.
Yes.
We all would have been better off.
Yeah.
So one thing that I did not notice, that it seems like you two are both privy to, was when at the end does it say that his aunt is his mom? Because I didn't put that together until I was watching the special features and
in the police car.
The cops were talking about it.
Yeah, the female cop with the psychiatrist talked about it. Yeah, but you're right. It's a small detail you can
I did not even
overlook.
notice it.
Yeah.
It's like, with Moriarty going, yeah, this kid, we can't say this kid has no hope. All right. Do you think they called the social worker Dr. Moriarty just as the worst Easter egg to Sherlock Holmes?
God, I hope not. I hope not. I love Sherlock Holmes, but I hope not. That's a reference, but could be easily. The movie's full of references.
He's the worst descendant of Dr. which all right, I'm going to go with that because that ties Fade in Black to the Sherlock Holmes universe.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think this, again, was a Vinegar Syndrome release to maybe bring other people who would normally not buy films from them into the fold.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, definitely. But let's talk about the kills because I cut you off earlier.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah, let's talk about the kills.
All right. The first kill, his aunt, which I thought was a really, really good kill because he made it look like an accident. Though, if the police were smart, they would have done an investigation. Neighbors would have said how much these two are always fighting. Because you could probably hear. I thought that kill was good because at that moment he basically became the Joker and started doing the cackling laugh afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
The hooker was next, right?
Yes.
Let me check.
I believe so.
I wrote down. Yeah, a struggler. Yeah.
He did not kill her.
Yes.
She tragically died before he had a chance to kill her. And I know the hooker kind of emasculated him, but did he have to kill her?
Well,
he was in the vampire costume, so he had to get his first taste of blood somehow.
Yeah, it's true. But did you notice? Not every time, but sometimes, even with the scene with his aunt when he kills her, he is from top to his mid half. He's dressed like a character from a movie, and has no pants on basically. So I had my idea was when I saw it that he's still not sure about what or who he is. So because that's a theme throughout the movie, that some part of his appearance is not finished, so to speak. So put on some pants, or even the makeup scene, which is really great, but he finishes one half of his face, which makes no sense because it's very easier to apply the whole makeup at once and not just one half. But I thought there could be something like there's still something in his head that wants to be normal, but the other half is like fighting for its place.
And
Right.
I think that's paid off at the end when he looks like he's about to put the gun down and take a bow.
Mm-hmm.
Because if he was still in that, he was still in a psychotic state, but if he was overly psychotic, I think he would have tried to shoot the police first and go out that way.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Would have fit to his character, I think, if he starts shooting at the police.
Yes. What was after the hooker? Was it? It wasn't his. Oh no! It was. Mickey Rourke's
Richie, I
character.
think. Yeah.
Richie, yes, as a Hopalong Cassidy.
So let me ask you this: do you think he actually killed Richie?
Well, he would have had to, right? They were questioning him, and
again, they were questioning coworkers, and that could have just been a fantasy that he did because I don't know. Again, Richie's death just seemed weird because he wouldn't have known where they were.
right.
Now,
Yeah.
I don't remember in the conversation where Richie was asking Eric if he was if he was wearing his vampire costume that night, could have set him off. But again, finding somebody where they, without modern technology, is pretty hard, especially if you're wearing a costume like that and people would notice you.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it could be something deeper like that. It could also just be this has to happen to move the story along. But I do think it would be an interesting thing if you know a lot of this was just kind of his imagination of something happening.
And same thing with the car ride with the film producer.
Right, right.
Did that happen?
Definitely. Yeah, I don't think so. That's too. I know it would be too easy. I wrote it down because the idea that a producer drives by and picks him up, just a random dude from the street, is very unlikely.
Right. And they have so much in common.
Yeah, yeah. And the whole conversation. So I studied TV producing, and the main thing we learned about if somebody comes to us and pitches an idea is to say it's a good idea. Let's talk about it later. So to put him off, to send him away, and he was basically on fire about the idea, and apparently took it over and made it his own idea during the interview. And the interview scene itself is very strange because they have to cut him off because the time ran out. It's very strange.
That was more common back then when they still had like live talk shows.
Yeah. Okay.
But I agree with you. It seemed really strange. Like, I also question if the producer's death happened, or if that was just more another clue to the troubling of his mental state.
It's a little bit like American Psycho, you know.
Yes, American Psycho. Nothing happened.
Yeah. So
what?
What do you mean? in that scene with the producer's death, why is nobody calling the cops? You know, he walks in with the machine gun, shoots around, kills him, and the people left the store, and nobody's calling the cops. That's, I don't know.
Right.
Doesn't make
sense. I was torn on that kind of stuff because it is far fetched, but you know, after his mom now died and he inherited all of that money that was somehow there. I mean, he's just got like hundreds hanging out of his inside pocket all the time, just buying stuff up. So I can see him just like, you know, buying all these costumes, buying weapons, whatever. But at the same time, it is just kind of like, is this happening?
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree. I think, again, like the guy who ran the studio who had the heart attack, I think that happened. I think when Eric put on a costume, he wasn't the one doing the killing. It was that character. Mm-hmm. It was the movie. Because everything happened in the movies, yet nothing happens, or nothing real happens. But yeah. I found it to be a fascinating movie. It was a movie I did see when I was a kid on cable, and loved it because it showed scenes from other movies. And now I just find it to be a story of don't become too obsessed with one thing, or otherwise you lose yourself.
Yeah. Another thing that Moriarty had brought up, and I don't know which way you guys see this, is there was one point where Moriarty was talking about, you know, like violence on TV leading kids to, you know, develop problems like that. Do you think that was something that happened with Eric, like getting so involved with all these violent, you know, noir gangster movies, or do you think he always had some sort of?
I think the movies were an escape from the abuse that he was getting from his mom and aunt.
Right.
Because these people were always his friends. They were always there. And they were able to do things to get them out of the situations they were in. While Eric did not seem like he did good at school. that to him movies were the only thing that mattered. It got to the point where he had no friends, where he had no life, and he was just kind of this sad person moving on from one day to another without anything to give him joy. And I think when he met Marilyn and she said yes to going out with him, maybe, just maybe, he started to feel like a real person at this point. And again, when she did not show up, everything shattered. That led to the death, that culminated in the death of his mother, Anne.
Right. I laugh every time you say that.
It's still better than Sister Wife.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
So that kind of touches on another thought I had while watching this, is that Eric, like when he's watching these movies and he's in his room, he seems like so confident, like he can, knows all, he can do anything. But then when he's outside of that, or especially when he goes to work, he's literally working with movies, and his self-confidence just tanks whenever he's there. So I thought it was like an interesting dynamic of, him being in control when it's, him in his bedroom with movies, opposed to him at his job with movies.
Well,
but also if he's in character, if he dresses
Yeah.
up like a character from the movies, he's also in control and very confident.
Right.
because he's not himself.
Yes. Yeah.
Because Eric Binford is Clark Kent. Everyone else is Superman. All right, so we are coming up towards the end of our time. How do you rate this movie? How many dead ants would you give it? Or how many dead ants or how many impaled hookers would you give?
Matt, you go first. Come on.
I'm gonna say, overall, pretty decent movie. I liked it. I definitely liked the first act the most. Second and third were kind of, just okay to me. I'm gonna give it I'll give it 3.5 dead ants.
Okay.
We're going out of 5, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
I like it.
Yep,
I
3,
like it.
3.5.
All right. I have to say, now that we are talking about it, I think the movie got a little bit more interesting to me, because it's a little bit like, let's say, American Psycho or even The Thing, where you don't know exactly what's going on, and you can find clues for theories, but you don't find any solution for your theory. It could all be a dream or not, and that's something I really like about the movie, and that's the reason why I give it a. Also, I had previously give it 3 out of 5, and now I'm giving it also 3.5.
Okay.
So I go up half a dead impaled hooker. I go up half.
I'm going to give it four dead ants. I think this is probably one of my favorite Vinegar Syndrome releases, because unlike most of them, this one was not a direct-to-video Z-grade film. This was a film that got released theatrically. Again, I'm older than both of you. I remember seeing the advertisements for this, and I was so excited when it came on HBO. But I think the fact that it's a character study and it kept my interest for the entire film, I'm going to give it a 4. And I will say, if you are looking for a double feature to watch this with, Censor would be a good choice, and so would Joker.
Yeah. Nice.
And I think
Alright.
aside from that, I know that, most of Vinegar Syndrome movies that are all blind buys to me. So I think if you're getting into it and you're not too familiar with these, I think this is a nice, like, calm one to introduce yourself to the label.
I think that this movie, Rad,
Yeah.
which is now available from Mill Creek, and
Without the lenticular.
and we just got Matt cut off. Right when he spoke up against the lenticular cover.
Yeah. Goodbye, man.
which means this episode is being controlled by Vinegar Syndrome, even though we are not aligned with them at all.
Yeah, that's very important to say. Yeah, we are not aligned with Vinegar Syndrome.
What movie should we discuss for our next episode?
Oh, let's keep it a secret. Let's keep it open.
Okay. Keep it a secret.
Slipcover, though. You can't get that one.
Okay,
and we just lost.
That's live TV.
We'll be back here next week.
Yes.
Same time, same YouTube channel.
Same guys.
Same guys. I might wear a luchador mask. I don't know. I don't know. But if you have any suggestions, message us individually. And we will probably get a Facebook page just for this podcast to go up soon. This week.
Yes.
Matt says he thinks he's back just as we're wrapping up.
Do we give him a chance to come back? Okay, there he is.
There he is.
Now
I'm back. I'm here.
Yeah, okay.
You
I shouldn't have talked about the slipcover.
No.
Yeah. We'll be back next week, the three of us, as we discuss another movie that will be a surprise to all of you and probably myself.
Oh, there's one thing that we didn't touch on. Maybe it was made up. I saw in the post that someone's revealing a 10-year secret.
Oh yeah, that was you.
Oh.
You know what? If there's time, we will reveal it next week.
Okay.
All right.
Great. I like it.
From all of us here at Grindhouse Chic, thank you for joining us. If you join us, if not, you better join us next week.
Yes. Goodbye.
Bye.